What if the way you relate to money isn't a personal failure, but a story you were taught and one you can rewrite? Hola, hola, my friends. Welcome back to another episode on a mother's journey to holistic health and healing. In case you are new here, welcome, welcome. My name is Marissa Prieto. I am a holistic registered dietitian, energy healing and well-being practitioner, and student of herbal medicine. And in today's episode, I'm sitting down with Kat. She is a working mom, a money mindset coach, and founder of Latina Millionaires Club, who shares how she healed her relationship with money, learned financial education, and began building long-term financial well-being while working full-time and raising a family. She's going to be sharing with us how she's just about reaching early retirement to just a little over $1 million. So this is going to be a really amazing episode. Lots of knowledge she is going to be dropping and sharing with us. This conversation is about breaking generational patterns, releasing limiting beliefs, especially when it comes to money, and stepping into what's possible. One intentional choice at a time. Taking the time to do the work and deciding that we are worth investing in ourselves. So grab your cafecito, grab your tea or whatever it is that you have, and let's get into it. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. All right. Hello. Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 51. It's going to be a powerful and insightful episode. I'm joined by the amazing and inspiring Kat. We're going to get into so much today. This message, but also this episode is really about, for all of us mamas, women who have ever felt kind of like overwhelmed, or maybe just kind of having different kinds of beliefs, limiting beliefs, things that haven't helped us when it comes to money. And maybe we have all these different kinds of thoughts, and we have different kinds of dreams, and we can just get so overwhelmed that sometimes it seems a lot, especially, to manage money, especially as we're a working mom, and we have so much that we're carrying on our plate every day. And on top of that, what's happening in the world economically that affects us as a whole and our well-being. So today we're going to get into this conversation with Kat, and she's going to be sharing her money journey with us. Basically, where she started, her ups and downs, her challenging moments, and how, what she's learned. So she's definitely going to be showing us a lot of her wisdom and, showing us what's possible when we heal our relationship with money, when we do the work, the education to help us redefine our worth, basically, right? Our worth and our thoughts and beliefs about money. Because we've been programmed so much about what money, quote unquote, should be like, right? Like having X amount of money equals your status or your worth or whatever, etc. Sometimes things that don't always help us through our journey. So we're going to get into that. And so I'm joined by inspiring Kat today. She's a working mom of two, full-time professional, money or if you want to call it financial wellness coach, right? Helping Latina moms heal their relationship with money and create, true financial well-being. And so, her journey began with a desire to learn financial education and create a future where she could retire early and live with more freedom. So that's amazing. I'm sure we all want to learn and all want to do the same thing. That's my hand. Definitely want to retire early. So we're going to get in this conversation. We're going to be talking about, where she started, how she pretty much transformed her mindset around money and beliefs while raising a family, I might add to that, of course, and working full time. So just a reminder that this episode's not going to be about quick fixes, right? It never is, or hustling, perfection, right? It's just really about focusing on our healing, being intentional, taking small steps, and believing what can be possible for us when we decide that we are worthy of our dreams. And that includes in our well-being, and that includes our financial well-being. So let's dive in. Kat, come on in and introduce yourself. Excited you're here.
So that was a beautiful intro, Marissa. Beautiful. But thank you for having me. Thank you, comunidad, for listening and being here as well. My name is Catherine Oliva. Is my full name. I usually go by Kat, and I'm a money coach and a mom. Like Marissa said, working full time, a wife, all of the things. Just doing my best to make an impact, leave a legacy in the world, and it just so happened to kind of really come to fruition when I started my own money journey, and started to share that with the world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So kind of tell us, for those who don't know, listeners, what exactly, what is, in your own words, definitions, values, what does a money coach mean to you? And like, how do you help your clients achieve their financial wellness goals?
Yeah, I love this question because that term has also morphed for me so many times, right? And
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
essentially, my goal is to help women find more peace, calm, and feel more peace, calm, and a little more essentially regulated when it comes to money. And so sometimes that could mean working on budgeting and working through any kinks that, come up with even the term budgeting or the process, or learning what investments look like and what that may need to look like for you to reach retirement goals. So helping women with their families through that process. And the reason why I started money coaching was because I had worked with or met with financial advisors in the past, and what I realized is financial advisors really wanted you to have your money together right before you go and see them. So they weren't
Mm-hmm.
really able to get into the details too much. And I wanted to be able to help women before they needed to, rather than just having to go straight to a financial advisor that was really concerned about how much money you have and where to put it, like kind of the before that process. Like, are you set so that you don't feel like, so women don't feel like they have to put all this into an unknown person,
Mm-hmm.
kind of helping them sort through their money. Like, I wanted them to feel
Mm-hmm.
safe and have an
Mm-hmm.
understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where that started, this money
Mm-hmm.
coaching idea. But, since then, this was like 4 or 5 years ago when I had that initial understanding. It's like morphed so much, I feel like,
Wow.
since then. But that's where it came from. And that's why I'm, very intentional about saying I'm not a financial advisor. It's, not here to give financial advice, but my goal is to help you have an understanding of what money is to you and how to make it work for you in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think that's really helpful because it can be intimidating, right? Like if you're going to, for example, a financial advisor and like, okay, well, you got to make sure you have this much, this or whatever. And then kind of that pressure also at the same time of not feeling, well, I'm not there yet, right? And then that kind of prolongs, I could see how that could prolong a person
Yes.
from not going to do it. And then it's like a cycle that continues to happen over and over and over. We dip into our savings and then we're back where we started, right? So
Hmm.
it's like it never will get done. But I appreciate that. I love that approach where it's kind of like it not going backwards, but it's like you're setting up a foundation from where they're at the begin, from wherever they're at. Like you're meeting them wherever they're at, basically, is what it
Right.
is. And that's where
Definitely.
coaching is, right? Yeah. I feel like too, like there's so many things that whatever it is in our wellness and our health that like is calling us for healing. Like, take, for example, food or body image. It's like kind of with money, the same thing. Like, sometimes we don't know where to start, right? And so we might need to get some of that guidance, or we might need to see what's possible, or like we have to have education. Like, the way that I see it, there's just different paths to go, but it's kind of a similar process in a way. Just with
Hmm.
these different areas of our well-being, right? Like you mentioned, you try to help it for women to not be as overwhelming. Like, let's, you know what I mean, taking it small steps, which is the important process, I feel like, when it comes to healing and just doing this
Right.
work, right?
Yes,
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
definitely.
That's very helpful. So you said 4 to 5 years ago, was that like when your money journey started, when you were like started becoming more awake, when you started taking action? Like where?
Yeah. 4 to 5 years ago was definitely when I started coaching. I think that's when I
Oh,
started to
okay.
see the
So you started coaching.
or wanting to step into coaching, right? But my
Mm,
money journey, I mean, to be really honest, I've probably
yeah.
been on a money journey the majority of my adult life, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just going down one path. And then
Uh-huh.
when I got close to 30, or as I was approaching 30, I started to set these like ridiculous goals. Like I wanted to get married by 30, buy a house by 30, did both of those things. And then I kind of sat with those, I think I had my second daughter at
Mm,
31. Yeah, 31. So those having sitting at 31 years old and kind of just looking at my life and realizing like, okay, I've done all these things that I was supposed to do, right? I had a good job that helped me buy my house, but I was just not, I was deep in overwhelm, deep in burnout.
mm,
Um, and it was me pushing myself through these, I wouldn't say unrealistic goals. There was just a a timeline, like a timeline that I put on
Okay.
myself, the
Mm-hmm.
pressure that I put on myself to
Mm-hmm.
meet this timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So, after, I kind of sat and done all that was the beginning of the pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
I changed jobs. Thankfully, it was a time that I could pause and change jobs. But when I changed jobs, I cut my income in half. The previous job that helped me buy my house, I was making close to six figures at 27, 28 years old. I was not managing that money well. I had very high expenses compared to the income that I was bringing in, was not great at saving. So, when I reached all those goals and I realized how overwhelmed and burnt out I was like, I'm letting this job go. Took on a job that ended up paying me half. I actually think it was like a little less than half of my sales job salary. And that was a huge step. It was definitely like a catalyst, I would say, for me in my journey, because not only did it have me kind of sit down and say like, all right, I've got to figure out how to live on less. Granted, I was married at the time. It was a two-income household. But navigating, the beginning of a marriage and what does
Mm-hmm.
finances look like as a couple,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there were all these questions that were coming up at that time. So I just kind of, with one step at a time, kind of tackling the budget and getting myself on a budget that worked. And then, having a plan with my partner to figure out what a household budget looks like, just those steps. But I think what really, kind of made things click in my mind was around the pandemic in 2020 when I started to learn about investing and what
Oh,
compound interest looked like and how it was my first time, even though I took classes on stocks and bonds in college because I have a business degree.
oh,
That
okay.
information did not sit
Stick.
in my
I'm sure
mind. Like
just
it
like for
didn't
many
stick.
people who go to college and you're there's a lot of
Yeah,
stuff that doesn't stick.
right. But when I saw the compound
Yeah.
interest, right, like I don't remember learning about compound, like maybe I did,
A
but
lot of stuff they don't teach us too, though. Mm-hmm.
right. And so when I saw it, in my 30s and looking at my retirement account, it like really clicked in my mind what was happening or what could happen if I was investing. And at that time, I didn't have the extra money to invest, but I was like, if at a minimum, I'm making sure, I'm understanding my retirement account, like through my work, that my pension, that's the only thing I had at the time. I
Mm-hmm.
had a strong understanding of that and what does it look like to maximize it, right? So it started increasing my
Right.
income and then, eventually investing outside of that account. So, in a nutshell, it's a very detailed journey over, you know,
Yeah. Span
seven
of.
years, but it was, just starting from this place of just extreme overwhelm and burnout
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
discomfort to like one step at a time, just figuring it out until I could
Mm-hmm.
start to feel that clarity. But then, of course, from there was so much money healing I had to do
Yeah.
even after that process. But that was the beginning.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna get into next. Yeah, is like because that's where ultimately the root stems from, right? Is our past and whatever limiting beliefs and or quote unquote traumas or anything like that, money traumas, anything like that. So,
Hmm.
what kind of going back to like whether it's childhood or like when you were younger, like what was your relationship with money grow up, or like what messages might have you received or heard about money or wealth, success, especially as
Yeah.
Latinas?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I definitely, I had a great childhood. I think my parents, did their very best to give us whatever we needed, and we took trips and things like that, so it was nice. But that's kind of what you saw on the outside, right? So then behind closed doors, what I started to see is just my parents. I wouldn't say, for me, it was struggle. Like I saw outwardly struggle. Like I would see my mom pay her bills and she would make sure she had enough money to pay these bills on any given date. And I saw them stressed and angry, and I saw them,
Mm-hmm.
when little emergencies would happen, they'd have to scramble and figure out where the money was going to come from, right? So it was just a lot of stress. But then it was like, the other side of that, we would take these trips. We went to Disney and
Nice. Yeah.
California. I live in Texas.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we would take these trips, right, that were amazing
Hold
and
on.
beautiful.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Pause. Let me stop. Because my girls just rambled in here. I didn't lock the door. Hold on. Okay.
You're good.
So you were saying about the trips you were taking.
Yeah. So it when I share it like that, it's almost like as a kid, I would get confused. I'd be like, how are you
Mm-hmm.
guys so stressed about money? But we're also
Ah.
taking these trips and like they were making sure things were paid for. So it was, I saw the struggle, but at the end of the day, they made things happen, the things that needed to be happen. They made sure the bills are paid. I think there was a time where we almost lost a car. And so that was a lot that I was seeing as a kid, right? And I would question. And as I got older, I realized how, through my own healing journey, how much I was almost trying to take on myself and wanting to like fix those issues. Um, because yeah, it was just seeing that struggle and wanting to make it better in a sense. So that's what I learned growing up, or that's what
Mm-hmm.
I saw, right? That was part of my money story. And so those are things that I had to kind of understand, like what were my earliest memories of money
Mm-hmm.
and what did that mean for me, or what did that mean to me, and how was I embodying that knowledge before I could figure out how I wanted to change it and,
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote, fix it.
Mm-hmm. Is that some of the work that you do with your clients as well?
Yes, that is part of like we essentially call like the mindset part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that I mean I encourage anyone to do, especially before coaching, is just to understand
Mm-hmm.
where that money story, those early money stories, what they are, because I think sometimes we block them
Yeah.
or suppress those memories, and it's really important to see them and acknowledge them, right? To know
Yes.
what is ruling
Where
our
were they coming from?
subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I always like to relate this back. I mean, just because of my personal story with like body image and food or whatever. So, and when I'm working with my own,
Yeah.
clients and stuff, it's like always going back to what were those early stories you heard on the commercials, on the family members making comments, on the whoever like whatever kind of comments, right, is are things that plant a seed and then start to question your what you already think about it, or what not really what you think about it, but you just start to kind of like mold new beliefs, right? And then from there
Mhm.
on it just expands and expands and expands the more that you hear it and the other places that you hear it from too. So yeah, our it starts kind of like at home, right? It starts at home with whatever messages we might have heard from our parents, conversations, like you said, seeing them, seeing your mom sitting there paying the bills, or making comments like money doesn't grow on trees, or like I don't know,
Mhm.
like don't waste this because it's a lot of money, and you know what I mean. So like it then becomes kind of like a scarcity type of mindset, right? Is that like a was that kind of part of your healing journey too, having kind of like a money scarcity kind of a thing
Mhm.
mindset?
100%. Yeah, like thinking like, oh, that's so expensive, like we can't buy that until it's on sale, like we have to wait until it's cheaper, or like, growing up in church, it's money is the root of all evil. So just thinking money is bad, money's scarce.
Mm.
I have to make every dollar stretch. Those were, yeah, some of the limiting beliefs that attributed to that scarcity for sure.
Mm-hmm. How did you work through some of those, or how have you been working from them, I should say? Like what's helped you?
Yeah, I would say a lot of I call it like subconscious reprogramming.
Mm-hmm.
So journaling, right? Like one, understanding where those thoughts come from when the memories come up, and kind of giving myself the or giving ourselves the not the freedom, but permission to let it go and decide like,
Mm-hmm.
that was something that I saw. It's not
Mm.
something that I have to keep, right? Like that's not
Mm-hmm.
mine. That's theirs. And sure, it was unintentionally placed upon me, but I can release it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think that's a very simple way, but yeah, meditation, I think getting back into my
Mm.
own worth and who I am, right? And who I am without all of the noise from the people, family, friends, all of that around me. Like who am I? And I think to think of ourselves as, really limitless beings, and money is just this like really small construct
Exactly.
of the time that we're
Exactly.
living in. And I think once
Mm-hmm.
I channel that, it's like, okay, these are just
Mm-hmm.
little little things, once I get back to remembering who I am,
Yeah.
these things don't really matter that
That's
much.
so powerful. Yeah. And then it's like, yeah, it's kind of one of those things that you have like that aha moment of like, I always get reminded of like this video from Carl Sagan where or his book called The Pale Blue Dot, where he's like in the video, he starts off like showing, I think it's little boy and his dad or something playing on the grass in a park or something, or bouncing a ball.
Hmm.
I don't remember. And then it just like zooms out, like 10,000 times, and then it just zooms out and it zooms out and zooms out. And the more that it zooms out and zooms out, like it's out obviously into this little tiny speck in the earth and then in the universe, and then just that a greater expansion, right? Just to kind of put things into perspective, that a lot of the things that we have are like a lot of the, how could I say, systems and like creations, man made creations, are all constructs, right? And money is definitely one of them. Money has so many different, there's just so many things we've been taught about it and beliefs and like, and part of, I guess, that work too is like defining values, right? Like
Hmm.
how,
Yeah.
what are my key values? What's most important to me? And like, I like how you mentioned about, you realize like that's just one part of it, and you did some of that subconscious work. So it's like, it's, there's kind of like, how could I say, balances. It's kind of difficult, right? Because you have one part. My sorry for the loud noise, y'all, in the background. My daughter's like, she forgot something I think she needs in the room. But no, what I'm saying is like, in our society today, I guess basically what I'm saying is like, it's difficult to find that balance. Like when we
Yeah.
know like what's right, quote unquote right, or we know what direction to go, or we know like,
Hmm.
what we want for our own growth, for our own journey, and what's most important, what's most needed. But then on the other hand, like when you're having constant messages of, the Kardashians, or you have like social media, or
Hmm.
you have, I don't know, like those unrealistic things, or those ways of telling us like you're not successful until you have this much money. You can't buy this until you have this much money. But at the same time, it's like, unfortunately, with so many people living in scarcity and, homeless and without food, and but on the other hand, people are just billionaires, like, and
Yeah.
not doing anything. Like that already shows you their values, right? At the same time, it's like we should be able to have freedom in our life to just travel where we want and not worry about time and not worry about a schedule and this and that. So, like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I get conflicted with that. Like, sometimes, like, I know I deserve this and I know we want this for our family and X amount of money, buy this property, get this house, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, I'm like, wait, but we have everything we need right now. So for
Hmm.
me, like, I get conflicted in that
Yeah.
often in my journey, and I always have to like bring myself to center. Does that ever happen to you? Do you
Hmm.
ever feel like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Every day. I mean, every day, especially, we live, if we think about, yeah, technology is wonderful. It has helped us become more efficient and cut down time and all XYZ and all these things. But like we also, because we have access to so much information, it's very easy to see someone else living a certain way and compare ourselves to, or compare the
Mm-hmm.
way we live to that and think that, oh, this is how it should be or whatever. And yeah, like that you mentioned the Kardashians. Like I used to be obsessed with the way that they
Yeah.
lived, right? And I
Yeah.
think, in my
Yeah.
20s and things,
Yeah.
and that seeing that, sometimes consuming that information, it kind of causes us to take action in certain ways, right? Like either we're
Mm-hmm.
mirroring or doing some of the things that we see, or
Mm-hmm.
wanting to, I don't know, hurry up and fix this so we can get our money right. But ultimately, I think you're right. Like it's that balance, and the balance is very difficult. I would say, it can be difficult when you're feeling like the chaos and the overwhelm. The balance seems like it's
Mm-hmm.
impossible. But I
Mm-hmm.
look at it as this like kind of teeter-totter. Like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna be
Oscillation
right there,
back
but
and
it's
forth.
very,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's like we're only there for a short amount of time, but a lot of times
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
on,
you're
the
absolutely
highs
right.
and the lows.
I definitely agree
So,
with that.
yeah, so what I think about it is just like, especially now, it's allowing everything to happen, and I'm just, kind of going with the flow essentially. But I think that's also comes with, hey, there's these certain systems that I set up whenever I was in that chaos and overwhelm, so that now this version of me can flow through a little bit better and make decisions from a not so, um, how would I say, like I don't, it can make a decision from a more calm place
Mm-hmm.
without, although I do catch myself like, oh, this
Mm-hmm.
bag looks really nice. I would love to
Mm-hmm.
have it. And then I have to come back and think like, how does this really fit
Mm-hmm.
in? And there are times where I will say
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. You can have that. You have
Mm-hmm.
the money. This is the use for it or whatever. And then there are a lot of times where I'm like, I'm kind of devoted to this goal right
Mm-hmm.
now. So
Mm-hmm.
having takes away from this
Mm.
goal that I'm devoted to.
Yeah.
I don't know
Thank
if
you
that
for
makes
sharing
sense.
that. Yes. No, no, no. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely. It's like we have to be intentional and mindful with the choices that we make, right? Versus making just choices just spontaneously or without thought and kind of you're giving
Yeah.
yourself basically what's helped you like from what you shared is like you're giving yourself space and time to pause and be intentional like by asking yourself, okay, wait a minute here, like before we do this, is this actually what we want? Like this is actually in alignment with where I'm at right now with what I want to do? Like do I, asking yourself all of those questions while at the same time validating like, yeah, I really like that and I could have it, and then do I really want it? Yes or whatever, right? That ultimately
Mm-hmm.
like you have that autonomy, like you make whatever decision that you want to make, right? Basically. But at the same time, like you're giving yourself that space, validation to create a more intentional choice. Like that's I feel like that's kind of where it starts too, is like by us pausing, having those
Mm-hmm.
inner like dialogue conversations with ourselves so that way we can go on that process. Either A, we learn from it. Yes, how did I feel afterwards? Was
Yeah.
it in alignment? Did it feel good? Did I feel icky? Like, did I feel it somewhere? And then we kind of use that information to help guide us like
Mm-hmm.
more onto that path, right? Basically.
Yeah,
Um,
and without the guilt and the shame. You know, like I
yeah,
think what you
exactly.
shared just now
Yeah.
is like, okay, let's take this
Go.
as a learning
Thank you for
experience because I
adding
even
that.
caught myself this past weekend where I like bought something and then 20 minutes later I bought something else and I was like, why did I just do that? Like why
Mm-hmm.
did they like I opened up something and so
Mm.
anyway, afterwards I was like, okay, this is the data or this is what I learned from it or this is what caused it. And I'm like, all right, whenever
Mm.
it gets here, I'll just if I need to return
Yeah.
whatever, I'll return it. But ultimately, like there was, it happened. I'm not going to shame myself for it or
Yeah.
hold on to this guilt because that's what's really hurting me in the
Yes.
long run is holding on to
Yeah.
those feelings.
Yeah, thank you so much for adding that. That's such a good point because that is definitely one of those types of emotions that like dims our mood, dims our spirit, how we move about
Yeah.
our day. And I know I keep going back to like the food thing because that's one of my specialties.
Yeah.
But
And
like
it's
that's how it is people like food
related.
guilt. You know what I mean? Like people have food guilt and then it makes them it impacts
Hmm.
their mood, it impacts their well-being, it impacts how
Yeah.
they interact, their relationships. And it kind of goes the same way with money, you know what I mean? All these constructs, all these like false I don't know, I guess distortions that are created in our mind and don't
Hmm.
help us. And it's like all about like doing the reprogramming, the unlearning, the like
Yeah.
to
Take a
start
lifelong
over again.
process.
Yeah, it's the journey, right? It's part of the journey. Different areas of your life and what you're feeling called to work on and healing. So this is definitely going to be helpful for me too in reflecting in my own, money journey. Because for me, it's been like something I just like it's there. Like occasionally checking the account, occasional like okay, having putting money in the savings like, but I don't put conscious attention into like my own whether it's budgeting or like I say I will, but I'm not fully conscious there. And
Hmm.
so and I think too for us other listeners out there, right? It's kind of also okay. Well, how it's asking ourselves like how important is it to me to work
Yeah.
on my financial goals, right? Because if we're not even like, if it's not, if like we're not even thinking about it, then how the heck are we going to make these choices and these
Yeah.
changes, right? And I'm sure that's what you do with you help with your clients is assessing their readiness to change. But anyway, going back to you, so many people want to change their relationship with money, right? But they don't know where to begin. So that's what kind of what I feel like it's with anything
Hmm.
really in general, with any kind of change or habit. Can you walk us through like what else doing the work, quote unquote, doing the work has looked like for you when you learned about money? Like, where did you get your resources, your education that you invested in, mentors, like support? Like, what are some of those things that
Yeah.
you can recall that you can share with us that have really helped you, like, get to where you're at now?
Yeah, definitely. Early on, I will say, but like creating my own budget for myself, I don't know. I would say it was more so intuitive, but it was also based on what I saw as a kid, right? I was like, these
Mm-hmm.
are all my expenses. These are my monthly expenses. So I always kept kept track of those. And I learned through just reading different books. I read A Simple Path to Wealth, which I don't necessarily recommend that book now, but back in 2020, there were not very many books
Mm.
written by Black and brown people that I could read. So this is
Yeah.
so that was one book that I started with. And also, oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget the name of the book. Do I have it here? The Ramit Sethi book. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking, but it'll come back to me. So those were books that I started with. But
Hmm.
now, if I were going to start, I would read, I'm looking over here because I have a whole stack of books, but Wealth Warrior by Linda Garcia.
Oh,
I
okay.
have the Yo Quiero Dinero Financially Lit book that's really
Hmm.
great, and Cashing Out, which is a lot of like real estate investing, and We Should All Be Millionaires. I think that was one of the first one by Rachel Rogers that I read that just like
Oh,
blew my mind when it came to
is
money.
that
But
how Latina Millionaires Club started?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was definitely not right
Cool.
away, but
Yeah.
definitely
Kind of where
based
the
off of
idea
that
might
book.
have come. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, yeah,
Awesome.
we should all be like, and we can
Mm.
be.
I love that.
And that was around the time where I realized, like, oh, I will be a millionaire. Like, just continuing to
Mm.
invest in this way, like, oh, I will be, and it's fine. And we just,
Mm-hmm.
it is, and that's, kind of
Mm-hmm.
relieved the pressure a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just starting with books, that's kind of where I started. So then it helped me refine my budgeting process because I
Mm.
was like, oh yeah, I want to pay myself first. And what
Mm-hmm.
pay yourself first looks like is you're putting money
Mm.
into your savings to help you reach
Mm-hmm.
your savings goals, and you're also investing. But that's happening before the money even comes into your bank account to pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just added that to part of my process. And later on, you talked about values. And one thing that's important to me in my coaching is like value-based spending. So creating
Mm-hmm.
an aligned spending plan that's aligned with your values, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you want to work in rest, maybe you want to work in your health and wellness. Like, what does that look like
Mm-hmm.
in your budget?
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of what I would learn over time, or things that I wanted to implement in my life, I guess, but I started to see that in my budgeting and my system. But ultimately, I think what's really important for everyone is to have a budget, as
Yeah.
you know,
A
uncomfortable as it is, but at least to know where your money is going.
starting
And
point.
yeah, a starting point. It's just like a little map, a little roadmap to
Mm-hmm.
tell you, hey, this is where things are going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Starting
Mm-hmm.
with that and starting with your net worth. Just because, in the world that we live in now, high net worth individuals are making a lot of the decisions
Mm-hmm.
that, without us in mind. So I think that's why it's
Mm-hmm.
also really important for me to see more Black and brown
Mm.
women as multimillionaires and billionaires so that we can start to shape, the
Mm-hmm.
policies that are really
The
affecting
world.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. And to point that out, like when we have this bigger perspective of the world, obviously, and this country, and that kind of, I feel like personally, like that helps me, like, this is part of like my purpose. Like, this is something that I can do for myself that could also help someone else out there, right? Like the work that you're doing, for example. And then when you're working with somebody and then they're working through it and then they're healing it, you know what I mean? So kind of like a ripple
Mhm.
effect to
Yeah.
help us like improve this country basically and these systems and yeah, like you said, policies and just because it's in the wrong hands and it has been
Mhm.
for years and years. And so I feel like hopefully there's some change going to come up through this time right now. But yeah,
Definitely.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I love that's super helpful. Starting with the budgeting. What else? What else in the books you shared? Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
Um,
Any other mentors
Definitely
you had
budgeting,
or
paying
mm-hmm.
yourself first. Yeah, earlier on, I know I was definitely into like Janice and Yo Quiero
Is
Dinero.
that
Like
how we
she
met?
was,
Did they
I
have
think
like a
so.
workshop? I
Yeah.
think that's how we met
Yeah.
through there,
I
isn't
think that's
it?
how we
Yeah.
met. Yes. So I
Yeah.
was like obsessed with her content, like
Yeah.
her podcast in the beginning. Like I think I caught it early, like in 2020 or 2021. And so yeah, different money podcast also, like Journey to Launch was a good one. I would just, consume that content
Mm-hmm.
all day long, the money content just to
Yeah.
learn. But yeah, ultimately budgeting, making sure you're saving and investing. Like those are the three things at a minimum, and that you're paying off debt.
Oh,
keeping
paying
that
off
to a
debt.
minimum.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. What would have been some of the things, like how have you been investing your money?
So right now, the majority of so I have my through work, I have my pension and 457B. So the majority is like in retirement accounts. I do have a brokerage that has individual stocks. So right now, which I am working to shift for myself, is a lot of my money is in, a total stock market fund or the S&P 500. And I am in this moment, like I know that these funds support, some of the organizations that are
Mm-hmm.
really big right now, like
Mm-hmm.
in tech companies.
Mm-hmm.
So I am kind of
Mm.
shifting that for myself, haven't quite figured it out, like, or
Yeah.
haven't quite decided where I want
Where?
to shift to, but that
Mm-hmm.
is something that I'll be at least in this
Mm.
first quarter of
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah. So definitely you're wanting to
Mhm.
shift your money into something else of the investing that's in alignment more with your goals and
Yeah.
where you're at right now, especially what's happening economically and like worldwide. And
Yes.
yes, I totally get that. And
Yes,
making
but I
that
would
time to do
also
that switch.
say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure. And I would also say that this is like the informed version of me now, right? But a few
Mm-hmm.
years ago, I don't think I would feel
Mm-hmm.
confident enough to make the decision. So
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, if you're investing, I mean, investing, putting your money in somewhere that it can grow, um, anywhere, because ultimately we just need to also have some of that wealth for ourselves because when we put that money back out into the world, it moves differently when it comes from our hands versus, you know,
Mm-hmm.
other
Mm-hmm.
other communities. So I don't want to like, if anyone is
Yeah.
there like, oh no, no, no,
You're
no
right.
action.
No right or wrong way. Yeah, exactly. We don't want
Yeah,
to overwhelm.
it's
Every
just doing it.
we all start somewhere and we don't have to have it all figured out just like we didn't because we learn over the years basically, right?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. What sacrifices do you think you've made along the way that like people don't often talk about, you feel like?
Yeah, sacrifices, I think, which now I don't really see them as a sacrifice, but like it affects relationships with friends when you have money goals and with family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like can't always, or at least I choose not to show up everywhere. And if someone is asking for something or some kind of money and it doesn't fit into my
Mm-hmm.
budget or I don't have it, like I choose not to make a decision that's going to hurt me to make someone else better in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, to
Mm-hmm.
make someone else feel better. So those are things that, it can affect friendships and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That means, I don't think this is necessarily a sacrifice, but setting certain boundaries
Yeah.
with work, right? Like with the way that I earn money, there are certain boundaries, which can be a good thing, but yeah, it can also be something negative, I guess. But yeah, just I think it's shifted relationships. It's shifted how I spend my time, how I spend my money, and ultimately, like I think but again, to me, I'm like that's kind of a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that that would be a sacrifice, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think when I think about sacrifice, it's those
Yeah.
relationships that
And
have
you
shifted.
sacrificed that big change in your income when you first left that one higher
Yeah,
paying
true.
job, right? That was a
Hmm.
you were used to that income and everything. That might have been a different change and sacrifice to something that was half of that or less, right? Or just
Hmm.
that change in there, which is something that
Yeah,
you were like, it was a change, and sometimes that's kind of like a little bit of a sacrifice in
that's
a way,
true.
something we're not used to doing, or feels
Yeah.
uncomfortable, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Different, definitely.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What do you feel like has been one of your like proudest financial or like personal milestones so far? Can you
Oh,
think?
that's a good question. I think, a really big milestone for me, even though I haven't quite hit it yet, is finishing out my career, my current job at 8 years this year, which I'll make this November, because I'll be vested, and that is how I will reach my $1 million retirement, over $1 million. So I just have to work through the next, what is it, 8, 9 months now, 8 months. And so that for me is a really big milestone. After
Yeah.
this year, it's going to help me take time off from working, getting to spend more time with my family. I have this really My husband has been, an amazing support in that process as we get together on the same page with what the next year or a few years of our lives will look like. And so, I mean, even I guess in that and sacrifice, different conversations, really tough conversations that had to be had. So I would say that's a really
Mm.
big milestone that I'm looking forward to. I think when I reached my first, what was the first milestone? Maybe like 50K invested was really important to me, and then 100K. So, but yeah, those are
Mm.
some exciting milestones.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, congrats. Yeah, that's amazing. Just putting all the hard work that you put into it will pay off, right? Exactly. And then
Yeah.
having those difficult conversations, or not, and sometimes they're not just be difficult. They might just be like time and energy and intentional with, hey, let's sit down. Like, let's have, where do we want to be X amount of years from now? Like, how to, right?
Hmm.
Having those conversations to create that vision, so that way we know which where direction we're going, right? Basically, have
Yeah.
a roadmap. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Like giving
Awesome.
ourselves spaces to shape that out, like
Yeah. And
decide, hey, where do you
time.
want to live and where do you want to be in the next five
Mm-hmm.
years? And
Mm-hmm.
realizing that, yeah, over five
Mm-hmm.
years is a significant amount of time to make a big change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why,
Yeah.
if we don't pressure ourselves to make those really quick changes and give ourselves the
Mm-hmm.
time, it makes a huge difference from what I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. And giving ourselves this time to to have a vision, to create, to have conversations is also a way of slowing down. I feel like because
Hmm.
of our fast-paced society, working our hours or whatever jobs and being a mom and doing all the mom things, on top of trying to take care of ourselves, it's like our other relationships and with our partners and talking about what do we want for our family, like all that takes time to think about that vision and slowing down
Yes.
it's hard in our society today, right? It's hard
Hmm.
to quote unquote slow down and whatever that looks for you, but some of these things do take time and that's part
Yeah,
of, yeah, slowing down to do the thing. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for
that's okay.
sharing. How has healing your relationship with money changed other areas of your life? Can you think of anything, whether it's like, I don't know, how your sense of self-worth, any other area of confidence, like, just curious what comes up for you.
Yeah, I think it's so much, yes, for sure, sense of self-worth, confidence, I think my health overall, like just getting
Mm.
space to like putting the time and intention I had to with money and just let that go, gave me so much space to think about other things. Like I feel like I've been a better mom, I've been a more present mom, which that came from putting myself into therapy
Mm.
when, I felt like I needed it. So getting that also helped me just have a better sense of self-worth. And then, yeah, mentioning my health and wellness, like just overall now being able to use money, right, to invest back into my health and to work
Mm.
with professionals in that sense,
Mm.
as well. Like, definitely, it's helped my. I don't know that. I mean, yeah, I would say money has helped my relationships, but it's because I've, prioritized deeper,
You've invested in yourself.
right, investing
Uh-huh.
myself, like prioritizing deeper relationships with my family and my loved ones. I think has been huge. Changing my environment from when we owned our first house and kind of selling it and letting it go, and to be in a more peaceful environment and being able to choose schools for my kids and just things like that, like just the access to be able to
Mm.
shift, almost all parts of my life.
Wow.
I think did stem from a lot of the relationship, from my relationship with money.
Wow, that's huge. Just how that transformation, how it's impacted all these other areas of your life. And when we
Yeah.
do, I feel like we peel a layer each time is how I see like our journey and growth and healing. And then after
Yeah.
this layer of healing, there's more expansion or more energy, if you want to call it, to focus on something else. And then, okay, we work through that. Then little by little, like we get to these other areas in our health and well being, which overall, hopefully, it's like, and that's what I call, obviously, it's like a holistic approach, obviously, right? Is because
Yeah, for
we're
sure.
working on ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually to bring us more into harmony and greater alignment and just building
Hmm.
resistance to the world that we live in and adjusting to that. But
Yes.
money stress, right? Money stress, like I could see how that, I mean, that could be a huge, huge impact on our well being, right? Like all around, physically,
Hmm.
harming our physical body, harming our mental health, and our ability to cope emotionally, like, or even spiritually. What about
Yeah.
for you? Like, how do you feel like, was there any, or if you want to share any of your client stories, or if you want to share about your own personal, whatever, how money stress has impacted?
Yeah, I think, I think sometimes we don't realize how much it is impacting us until we just pause and take a look at it, or just take a look at those things. Because, yes, for me and also for my clients, but what I notice is that like just sitting down with someone, like, okay, let's sort these things out and to understand, like, maybe you just need a system for your money, right? Like, and then we set up the system very quickly, and then it's like, oh, that's it. Like, I can now think about other things, and it's like, yeah. So, setting up the system, and then, for me, when I work with clients, what it looks like is we set this up, and then we're like, okay, now let's jump into the relationship. Like, what does your relationship with money look like? That gives us space to get into the emotions, understand
Mm,
how these
how they
decisions are
feel?
impacting different parts of your life. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that, yeah, once I take away the stress of, like, you have maybe been in this overwhelm for months thinking about what does this need to look like for me, and just taking some time to sit down and sort it out, just so much mental freedom. And then you can
Yes.
put that time and energy into other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And then at the same time, too, when you think about, like, if we're stressing ourselves with all these thoughts of money, the money stress, right? Creating all those stressful thoughts, that's also impacting like how we feel emotionally,
Hmm.
drained, overwhelmed, frustrated, scared, worried, concerned, whatever. And that obviously takes up our how we interact our day, like our mood overall, right? So
Yes.
just that shift in like the way that you help them, or if we just start by taking a little bit of time to see where our money is, helping us gain that greater self awareness of what's coming in, what's coming out, for example. Starting with that, starting very small, and then practicing that can help minimize maybe other worries of, oh, when's this bill due, or when's this,
Mhm.
or maybe noticing this unexpected like bill that's due this certain day. I don't know, you know what I mean? Just kind of being aware,
Yeah.
right? And that might help to minimize some of that extra stress when we little by little start to put those steps into place, because
Hmm.
it can be overwhelming. And that's a lot of part of that nervous system regulation work, right? I hear a lot about that these days.
Yeah.
Nervous system regulation, especially in the times that we're living right now, is the stress. And this is part of it. So sometimes for some people it's like, well, I'm so stressed, how can I even deal with my money like
Hmm.
situation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's hard too. So it's like, okay, do you ever have any clients like that they, they're like, okay, I'm so stressed right now. How am I going to work on my money?
Yeah, well, yes, for sure. And I think that a lot of, so usually when I start to work with clients, they're usually ready. Like
Mhm.
they're like, I've just got to deal with this now, right? But yeah, I
Mhm.
work with a lot of women even before that process. They're like, oh, I have to worry about all these other things. So it's really like, okay, yes, I know it's probably scary or fear that's coming up that you have to actually address this money situation now, which is natural.
Mhm.
But then it's also, for me, I'm like, this is, a lot, you don't realize how impactful it is until you start to, yes, uncomfortably sit in the reality of whatever the money situation is. And
Mhm.
I
Facing
think
it.
that, yeah, and I think that's why I love what I do. Like, let me just hold your hand while you figure out that you
Yeah.
don't have to do it by yourself. It is scary
Yes.
to sit here and look at these numbers, and maybe,
Yeah.
I've worked with women who've, like, I've always been told I've been bad at math, and so I'm just bad at math, and so I just don't look at numbers. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, well, this is, that's not true. That story isn't true. We're
Mhm.
deciding that you're good at money now.
Mhm.
And so I think that that is what's really, to me, the biggest thing is when women are like, oh, I don't, I have all these other things to worry about, and like, okay, let's figure this out. So then you can go and worry about all those other
Right.
things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like the sooner the better in my mind. It's like it's urgent. A few years ago, it was so urgent to set up these money systems for ourselves. And then we see now in the world, right, like what has been created. It's really hard to now start to make changes with your money now if you haven't
Mhm.
addressed it before now,
Mhm.
um, with this high cost of living,
Yep.
and now trying to ask for a raise at work when those budgets are being limited.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I'm like, yeah, the best time to start was yesterday, but doing it now, even if you can't afford coaching, but at least deciding to make the small steps and just looking at where your money is going, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
where's your money going right now? Is just
Yeah.
a really simple place to start.
Yeah, I agree. Like we said, and I like what you said earlier too about like kind of like that guilt part on spending certain things. I think also important part of any journey, right, is also trying to offer ourselves a little bit more self-compassion. Like, okay, I'm learning to do this. You know what I mean? We're not like we don't have all the answers, and as part of the journey, offer talking to ourselves a bit more kindness, a more understanding, right, or even neutral can help shift that energy too as we learn along the way, right? It's not
Yes,
like we're not gonna be perfect at it. It's just we're
for
learning
sure.
and changing that narrative. Like, okay, we used to do this for such a long time, but it's okay. We're doing this different now. Like that constant reminder of we're doing things different. We're working on things differently
Hmm.
this time around, right? Giving ourselves that
For
permission
sure.
and attention. Yeah.
Yes.
What do you feel like for the moms listening right now, like who feel like overwhelmed, like we talked about, or underpaid, or like stuck? What do you want them to know is possible for her, or like advice that you can share? Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think one is just like knowing that it's gonna be okay. Like it feels hard right now. It feels hard right now, but there's a path for like the future version of you that has it together and has it figured out. So one, everything is gonna be okay. Everything is okay. You know, you are safe and just sitting in that, right? Like believing that everything is okay and you are safe. And then once you start to get the feelings, you know, or that urge to maybe do something and take action, to look for the resources. You know, if it's me, then happy to talk to you. And if it's something else, right? Like whatever that looks like, where you feel called to find that support, where you feel supported, finding that space, to take the time for your money.
Thank you. And why do you believe healing our relationship with money is so like especially for Latina women?
I think is what I shared earlier, right? Like for Latina women is, you know, it's very important, I think, for us to see more of us have it together, if that makes sense, or like have our money figured out. Because I think the more we bring that into our awareness and our environment, the more that we can, the more that it becomes possible for others, right? So I think
Mhm.
that it's so important because one, we need to see that it's possible for
Yes.
us. That's number one. Because if we don't think it's possible, a lot of us aren't even going to try. And then the second piece of that is, you know, just I just believe more money in our hands just puts more good out into the world. We're able to, if you look at, you know, I work in public service. There's many Black and brown women that work in public service, and so I just think if we had more money in our hands, the more we would be able to put those dollars back into the communities that need them. So yeah, that's why I think it's
Mm.
important, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I definitely agree with that too. And here's another one for you. What generational patterns around money are you intentionally breaking, you feel like, or healing through for yourself and for your children?
That's a big one. I think one is like that we are enough, right? Like I think that we are enough and we don't need to do anymore. Like we just are enough as is, as we are, and that we can rest, you know, that like we don't have to hustle, we don't have to work hard. We were out of survival mode. And
Yeah.
so what does it look like for us to rest and earn money? And what does it look like for us to
Mm.
do the things that we love? Like now you get the option, like think about my girls, like now you get the option to pursue the things that you love and we get to put our time and energy and our focus into those things. And you have a mom and dad who are like pushing you. And what does that look like? You know, so I think even having that ability to say, like, now we're going to put the intention behind the things that you love and allow you to put that out in the world. I don't know what cycle that is, but I know it's something that never, you know, wasn't
Mm-hmm.
available to me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, just being more present, like when you have more time or more freedom or space, time wise, and to spend with your kids and teaching them things differently are part of that work, breaking those cycles, something
Yes.
that you are doing differently for them. Yeah, I love
Yes,
that.
for
And
sure.
what's a small shift out of the stuff that you shared today or anything else, maybe something else that comes to mind? What's one small shift someone can make to begin healing their money journey today?
I think if you're in the call to you and you're like, I don't know, this sounds, where do I start? I think the biggest thing is one, just understanding um, your relationship with money, right? Like where we started. What's your money story? What are your earliest memories of money? And how do you think that's now showing up to rule your life now? I think starting there is really impactful. And then also, what do you want your relationship to look like? Like, if you can choose anything, what do you want that to look like? Because it kind of just starts to give you that path of like where you're coming from to where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And then, being able to make decisions from that future self. Like, if you were feeling peaceful, if you were calm with money right now, if you feel like you had it together, what decisions would you make to fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
I love
though,
that one.
that's a really great place to start.
Yeah, I love that one. So that can also help you make more aligned decisions if we kind of just pause and think about what that would feel like in our body, and
Yes.
then how would I be thinking and how I'd be managing money differently if I was feeling more calm or confident with my money, right? And how I work with it.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. And if you could imagine your future self financially free already, retired early, what does she feel like in her body and her spirit? Like, show us what that version of you looks like or feels like and is doing. Just curious. I want to know
I
what that
just
looks
think,
like.
yeah, like calm and peaceful and just more time for joy. Like I think about, even me as I showed up today, having a weekend to do nothing, right? Like there's no expectations. Just feeling rested and calm and happy and just peace. I think that's overall peace when I think about, yeah, that version of me now that's, you don't have to work anymore. So what do you do with that time?
Mm-hmm.
How do
Mm-hmm.
you leave? Like, what does impact look like? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what I see
Mm-hmm.
for myself.
Peace for you. Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
to the mamas out there too, thinking about too also for yourselves, what does financial freedom look like or how would you feel? Kind of thinking about that place of how we want to feel, but that it's not, how could you say, unreachable.
Mhm.
There are things we can do, places to start to help us bring more peace into our life, not just necessarily with money, not just necessarily with food and our body, but like
Yeah,
there's just so many things that we can do that could help with all of those things. And that's how we have this podcast, is to have these conversations on how to take a whole person approach to our health and our wellness. And that includes our
definitely.
financial well-being. So thank you so much, Kat, for
Amazing.
being here and for all your wisdom and connecting with you. I really been wanting to have this conversation for a long time now. So thank you for being here. And yeah, just a reminder to all of us that, this healing our relationship with money is not going to happen overnight, just like anything else, right? It's believing that it's possible. Believing that it's possible,
For sure.
believing all our stories, seeing the evidence, right? Hearing different podcasts, reading the books, right? When we can see that it's possible, then we can start to believe it and feel it, right? And that leads to some of that action. So just, thank you so much for being here, Kat. We don't have to have it all figured out, but it just shows your hard work, that you're like the intention, the time you put in, the education, the investment in yourself, where you got your support, right? That look at all the change that can happen. And it's possible to build wealth. It's possible to build the stability or confidence around money and still be present, like a present parent at the same time. When
Hmm.
we work on all of these things, which is, I'm sure, a lot of we as moms want, is to have presence with our children and
For
less
sure.
worry, especially with money. And, just also to all my friends out there, all the mamas, if something in this episode resonated with you, please feel free to share it with anybody or leave a review. And, you don't have to all figure it out. Reach Kat, connect with
Hmm.
Kat. I'll put all the info in the show notes. Anything else you want to add to that on how they can best connect with you?
Yeah, just reach out. I definitely, you can, if you're on Instagram, feel free to reach out at Latina Millionaires Club on Instagram and message me there. Let me know where you heard this. And yeah, happy to connect.
All right. Thank you so much. So, yeah, I encourage you and myself. Let's all reflect on our beliefs about money and let's release all those ones that are not serving us so we can make space for new possibilities and welcome in more possibilities for financial and wealth and abundance. So, thank you so much, Kat, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for listening and, yeah, for sharing your money journey with us. We'll catch you all on the next
Thank
one. Thank you
you.
for sharing our wisdom. Thank you, everybody. And you all take a good care.